y'all get a book? I want to make sure y'all have this. There you go. You're welcome. All right, well, thank you so much for having me. This is, I think, my second or third time to come and speak to the College of Business, so I'm very excited again. My name is Lori Higgins. I'm with Mobile Oil Credit Union. I am in the marketing department. I do business development for the credit union. And part of that is financial wellness. We have a financial wellness program called Smart Change. And I travel around our 8 counties. We have 8 branches in Southeast Texas. And so I travel around our 8 counties, our different branches, partnering with community groups, schools, colleges, businesses, just anybody, churches, and I bring financial literacy, financial information to those groups. When I partner with businesses, a lot of times they may bring me in to do credit score or budgeting or identity theft, different things like that, just to kind of help their employees. So we all know our number one stress in life is usually money, and so that's something that I really am passionate about, and the credit union loves that this is a real positive stance that we're making to help educate people, because you guys are, I'm assuming we're all juniors, seniors in here. This may relate to you a little bit. One day this is going to be you in that group of people graduating and you're seeking jobs, you're ready for employment. So I want to give you a couple tips and tools to just take with you to prepare when you get to this stage in life, when you're ready to graduate, when you're ready to hit the world with your job, with your career. I want you to know some tips about money and how to handle it. Let me say first, money is not everything, and it will not bring you happiness if you don't know how to manage it correctly. So these are just some of the things we're going to talk about. Primarily, we're going to be talking about credit score. How many of you have heard of credit score? Y'all know what it means? Okay, I like to hear, how do you know about credit score? Where did you learn it, or where did you hear it?
High school.
High school, you did? Yay!
The bald-headed guy, the one that talks about finances all the time, the one who doesn't believe in credit cards.
Oh, Dave Ramsey.
Dave Ramsey, yeah.
I saw him on a live feed today.
I had dollars and cents, and we had a whole 4 weeks of watching Dave Ramsey and dealing with fake money.
Yes.
Like that.
Well, you are rare. Most high schools don't do that these days. I mean, they just don't, and that's something that Mobile Oil Credit Union is doing as well. We are partnering with, so far I have about 6, 7 high schools in the area that we're trying to get financial literacy into the classrooms, because most schools don't teach it. And so when I'm traveling around and I'm doing these classes, especially for my 20, 30, 40, 50-year-olds that will come to this seminar, they're like, I never heard this before. No one ever told me. So some of this stuff may not apply to you today. It's probably, well, I'm going to take that back. It does apply to you, but you may not have started your road on your credit history, on your credit worthiness, and that's okay. If you've not ever applied for a loan, if you've never done anything other than just, you don't even have a credit card, you just have maybe a checking account and that's it, no student loans, no nothing, then you probably don't have credit. That doesn't mean you have bad credit, it means you have no credit. No credit is different from bad credit, okay? So we're going to talk about all those things. So some of this, like I said, may not apply to you today, but it will very, very soon if it hasn't already. So I'm going to just go ahead and get started if I can get my clicker to work. All right, credit score. That's what we're going to be talking about today, and the importance of it. It really affects our lives a lot more than you think, besides just having a good number to go buy a new car or something. So Fair Isaac Corporation, has anyone ever heard of the Fair Isaac Corporation? You're like, who in the world is that? Well, that's your FICO score. If anyone has ever heard the word FICO, that's the scoring model. Fair Isaac Corporation, that's the scoring model that's used in the United States. So everything we're going to be talking about today is just kind of estimates and guesstimates, just for you to kind of get an idea of how it all works. So once you have started borrowing money, let's say you've applied, you've got some student loans, and you may even apply for a credit card when you were 18, 19 years old. Well, then you probably have a credit score. You're working on your credit history. So what that means is you've got a 3-digit number. I work for a lending institution. I work for a financial institution. And so if you come to me and you say, I would like to buy a car, well, I don't know you. You know, I have no idea who you are. I've got to judge something to look at. How am I going to determine if this person is going to pay me back if I give him money to buy a car? Well, I'm going to look at his credit score. I'm going to look at that number, and if that number is high, that means he's got a good credit score. If that number is low, that means his credit score is not so great. He's done some things that are not probably smart or not the best way to handle his money. So that helps me determine, do I loan him money, or how likely is it that I'm going to get paid back if I loan someone money? So that's the number that we use. We look at that number. We look at other things as well, but that's the big number that we look at. It also determines how much interest rate I'm going to charge you. You all have heard of interest rates. You know what that is. If you borrow money, whether for a car or if you have a credit card or if you have a home, whatever your loan payments are, there's interest that you're being charged every month to borrow that money. And so your interest rate is based on that credit score. So we use that number as well to determine how much of an interest rate you're going to have to pay when you borrow that money. This is where we all fall if you have a credit score. If you had credit history, you are somewhere on this chart between 3 and 850, okay? You can't be a 0. There's not a 0 credit score. Remember, you can have no credit. You may have no history whatsoever, but that's not 0, okay? And you won't ever go to 0. So this is where we all fall. The higher the score, the lower the risk. So that means if you've got a higher credit score, you're doing things right. You've been paying your bills on time. You don't have a whole lot of credit card balance, so you're going to have a higher score. Your risk is low to me, so then I'm going to be more likely to loan you money for a car, for a credit card, or whatever it may be. The higher the score, the lower you're going to be at a lower risk. The higher the score, the lower interest rate you will get. And the lower the interest rate, the more money you're going to save. That's what I'm passionate about. I want you to know how to keep as much money as you can. Once you get into the world and you start working and you've got your career, I want you just to know how it works, because when you get out there, a lot of you probably have jobs now. We work hard for our money, and I want you to be able to keep it. So I'm hoping there's going to be some tips and some things that you're going to be able to take with you. So this credit score, this 3-digit FICO score that we all have, or will have, is a snapshot. Has anyone ever looked at, because we have 3 credit scores, 3 major bureaus, Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax are the 3 major credit bureaus in the United States. Has anyone here ever looked at all 3 of your scores? Have y'all ever done that before? No? Okay. Well, you have 3 different scores. You have a score with each one of these bureaus, and they are always going to be a little bit different. That's very normal. But how that credit score works is your score is just a snapshot. So right now, if you were to pull my credit score from all 3 of those bureaus, they're going to all be different, and it's just what my score is today. It can change tomorrow based on what I do. It can change in 3 days based on what I do, okay? So it takes about 60 days to 80 days for things to show up on my credit report. And what I mean by showing up on my credit report, there has to be activity with your loans. So let me just kind of explain what that means. Let's just say I have a credit card. I got my very first credit card when I was 19 years old, and every single month, that credit card company reports to all 3 of these credit bureaus. They tell them what I'm doing. They tell them that I have a credit card, my balance is $50, I have a limit of $1,000, and they let them know every single month how much I've paid on it, when I paid my bill. That's what is called reporting. So when you have loans, all of those lenders, whether it's a student loan when you start paying those back, whether it's a car loan if you have a car loan, if you have a credit card, whatever loan you have, when you start making those payments every month, that company is reporting to all 3 of these bureaus, and that's what they're telling them. Yes, they paid. No, they didn't pay. Whatever you do, that's what makes your score go up or down. And it takes a couple months for things to show up. So when you all get a credit score, once you start your credit history, we all start at around 700. Okay, so remember on our chart, low is 300. 850 is the highest. Hardly ever see an 850. They're really hard to come by. So if you're starting around a 700, then you can kind of determine whether your score goes up if you do the right things, or if your score goes down based on your activity. And your credit score is based on your activity, no one else's. It doesn't matter how much money you make. You could be the CEO of a company making $250,000, and you could have a lower credit score than someone that is, you know, a teacher that makes $30,000 a year. They could have a higher score than someone that's a CEO. It doesn't matter how much money, what you do, how long you've had that job title. It's all based on a couple things that we're going to talk about in just one second. So I've mentioned that you want the high credit score to be able to save money with interest, you know, to be able to borrow well when you need to borrow money. But there's also some other things that your credit score, it's important to know as well, because it's not just, it doesn't just affect us when we're trying to borrow money. How many of you have ever gone to, when you went off to college, did you have to sign a lease or an application to move into an apartment? Did they look at your credit score? That's a lot of times the first time people get, besides applying for a credit card or something, when you're going to apply for an apartment or a rent house, they do look at your credit score, okay? And they're going to determine, can I give this person an apartment or not? Utility companies can do the exact same thing. They might look at that credit score, and if someone is coming up to me, I'm a utility company, someone moves into their apartment, they're ready to get in and get settled, and we can't live in the dark, so you call the utility people, hey, I need lights over here. They're going to look at your score, and if that score is a decent score, if it's high, then they're probably going to go, sure, I can turn on your utilities. You have a little bit of a deposit. You might be a $200 deposit or a $100 deposit, but the next person might come in, and if their score is low, what does that tell me as a lender? What does that tell me as an apartment or as a utility company? If someone has a low score, what is that telling me? They're not reliable, and they're not paying their bills. They're probably not paying on time, because that's one of the, we're going to talk about it, why your score goes down. Their score's not as high as it could be because they're not paying somebody else. So am I going to just right away flip on the power switch for them? Probably not. I may require more of a deposit, because if they're not paying someone else, are they going to pay me? I don't know if they will or not. So I may require a little more of a deposit on someone with a lower score, just so I'm not stuck with all of this, outstanding bills. So credit scores are important for renting, for leasing homes or apartments, for your utilities. Your auto insurance premiums are also based on your credit scores as well. Not all employers look at credit scores, but some do. I work for a financial institution, and they do look at our credit scores when we apply for a job and we get hired. Now, you don't have to have a perfect, 850 credit score. It's not that, but they do look at a range. All of these, except for applying for a loan, all of these types of looks at your credit is what we call a soft pull. So it's not really looking at your actual 745 credit score. They're just kind of looking at a range to make sure that, almost just like just a range of your credit score. So it doesn't cost you any points, but all of these things, like your employer, they won't actually know what your true credit score is. They're just making sure that your credit history is pretty stable and it's in good shape. Because think about it, I work for a credit union, and if someone's coming to apply for a job, and they might be a teller, and our tellers are in charge of cash drawers, and someone's coming in, I've got two applicants, and they both look great, they both interviewed well, and did well in college, or, I'm thinking about offering one of them a job, and I look at those credit scores. If one's got a really high score, one's got a really low score, who am I going to choose? High one, absolutely, because that could be a temptation with that little bit of money. So sometimes employers do look at credit score, so that's why it's important for you all to know and to understand how to keep those scores high. So I've told you that it doesn't matter how much money you make, it doesn't matter what your job title is, where you live, none of that matters. It's just 5 parts that make the credit score. Just these 5. All of this is in your handout as well, so you can either take notes or certainly take that with you. You'll notice 2 parts. 65% of your score is 2 parts. They're all important, but if you can really focus on 2 of them, over 65% of your score is based on your payment history. How do you pay your bills? And how much of a balance do you have on your credit cards? Those are the 2 most important parts of your credit score. Okay? Mix length of credit, and new credit is also added in there as well. So let's talk about what this is. Okay, this is payment history. Everything on the slide, 35% of your score. So what that means is, once you start having loans, once you start having bills that are due, it might be a credit card, it might be a car loan that you have, it could be once you graduate, if you've got some student loans to start paying back, it could be those student loans, whatever those loans are, how do you pay? Do you pay on time? Do you pay late? All of that is part of payment history. So if you take nothing else away today, please, please, please remember, do not be late on loans. It really will affect your credit score. It seriously can affect your credit score. So always remember, before you sign that dotted line, you're signing a legal document saying that I promise to pay you back, Mr. Baker, Mr. Credit Union, Mr. whoever it is that you're paying back. Make sure you can do that because it can really affect your credit score. So you can kind of read, there's collection items, delinquencies, judgments, all of these types of things are considered payment history, so we want to make sure we pay our bills on time. The second largest portion of our score is our capacity. And what capacity means, I'm referring to credit cards only. A line of credit or a revolving credit, which is a credit card. Okay, so how that works is, just to kind of get an idea, like what in the world does capacity mean? Let's just say I have one credit card, and my credit card limit is $1,000. That's how much I can charge up to $1,000. Okay, what if my balance adds up to $500? I have $1,000 limit, and my balance is $500. How much of that capacity have I used? 50%, okay? That's what I'm talking about, capacity. FICO likes you to have low capacity, not high capacity. You'll lose points by having carrying over a balance every single month, and we'll talk about how much of that you can lose, but that's the capacity that I'm talking about, okay? Just on credit cards. Length of credit, 15% of your score is length. That just means when you get a credit card, if you have a credit card in your name, a Visa or a MasterCard, or even some of the department store credit cards, just keep them open. Keep them active as long as you can, because that creates history, and they like that. So that's 15% of your score. There's what we call a mix of credit. They like to see that you can mix it up, not just have 3 credit cards. You won't get, your score won't be as high as it could be if that's all you have. It's just 1 or 2 credit cards. They like to see an installment loan, which that's a mortgage or that's a car loan. What that means is you buy a car and it's a 4-year note, so that means every month for 4 years you've got a start date, you've got an end date, and so every month for 4 years you're making that installment loan, and at some point it's done and you're finished. That's a mortgage, that's a car loan. So they like to see installment loans because that's showing them, you're showing them that you can keep up with your bills, you can pay them every single month on time. Those are good loans to have as long as you can afford it, you know what you're doing. But that's what we mean by a mix, just kind of mix it up a little bit. Okay, new credit is something that this is kind of tricky because 10% of your score is based on you adding new credit. What that might mean is you applying for a credit card, you applying for a loan, you applying for a car, whatever it may be. So they like to see that you can add new credit within reason, but you do get points deducted for new credit. So let me explain how this works. Have you all heard of like an inquiry or a hard pull on your credit? Is that a word that y'all have you ever heard? If you apply for a loan, you're going to have what we call a hard pull on your credit report, and you will lose 5 points for that every time you have a hard pull on your credit report. So let me give you an example of where you may have had this happen and you may or may not have known what was going on. Okay. It's a weekend, I'm ready to go shopping, I'm headed to the mall, and I walk in, and Old Navy is having a great sale, 40% off the whole store. I'm like, oh, this is my kind of place. So I walk into Old Navy, get all my clothes, I put them up on the counter, and the little person behind the counter says, would you like to save 15% on your purchase? Has anyone ever had that happen to you in your life? Well, yeah, I want to save 15%. I need to save money. I'm all about saving money. So I give them my name, I give them my social security number. What are they doing right then and there in Old Navy? They are running my credit. And they're looking at that to determine if they can offer me a credit card or not. And they may say, congratulations, Lori, you're going to get something in the mail from us in about 3 weeks. You've saved 15%. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so great. So I get all my clothes and out I go, and I'm walking through the mall, and I park down by Dillard's. So I walk through Dillard's, and ooh, look at those shoes. They're having a good sale at Dillard's too. So I go into Dillard's. I find me a couple pairs of shoes, walk up to the counter, and the little guy behind the counter says, how would you like to save 20% on your purchase? This is the nicest mall. I cannot. Yes, I want to save 20%. They are so great here. You're trying to help me. Oh, yes, thank you. So I do the exact same thing. What is your name? What's your social? Here we go. Congratulations, you're going to get mail in about 3 weeks from us. I walk out of the mall. I've got new clothes, saved money on. I bought some new shoes I saved money on. I am feeling really good. I'm feeling really, really good. Okay, according to my slide, you may or may not have known if you've done this, I just applied for 2 credit cards. An Old Navy credit card and a Dillard's department store credit card, okay? Every pull of my credit is 5 points, and if I open that trade line, if I open that credit card, it's another 10 points. So how many points did I just lose on my credit report? 30. I just lost 30 points because I opened 2 credit cards in one day, okay? I teach this class at LIT as well, and I had a student in the back. He raised his hand. He was like, I'm like, yes. He goes, I wish I had met you 2 weeks ago. And I'm like, why? He goes, I opened 3 credit cards. And I went, okay. So he lost 45 points on his credit score in one day. Now, you get those points back in a year. 12 months, they do come back. But remember what I said at the beginning? Sometimes employers look at credit scores and they want to just make sure that you're credit worthy and that you're keeping all your things together. All right, I did all this shopping last summer. Let's just say I opened, my little friend at LIT, he opened 3 credit cards last summer. So his score, whatever it is, the average credit score in the United States is 689, okay? So let's just say he was, a 660. It's not terrible, it's not too bad. So he went shopping, opened up 3 credit cards, so his 660, all right, business students, take 45 points out of that. What's his score now? 615? Okay. He graduates in December. He's got the perfect job he's interviewing for. His credit score is showing that it's a 615. That's not really a true, accurate score. That is his score. And it's going to go up next summer. He's going to get those 45 points back, but right there when he's interviewing, it looks like he's not that great. Okay, so just keep that in mind. It does cost you points when you open up new trade lines. They like you to do it. It will help your score. When you apply for your very first credit card in a year, your score is going to go up about 50 points. So you do get those points. You lose them for about a year, and then they come back. But I just want you to know how to do it smart. Don't go to the stores and take that discount to just save money, because if you don't pay that balance, when that credit card bill comes in 3 months, I may have saved 15% on that purchase, but what if I spent $250 and my bill comes in and I'm like, I don't really have $250 right now. I shouldn't have bought that much clothes, because you're not paying attention, because it's all 40% off. You're not paying attention. Yeah, I can put it on my credit card. I can do that. The bill comes in, whoa, I owe $250. I don't have $250. So it's real tempting to just pay that minimum payment. That minimum payment is going to be about $10 or $15 or $20. It depends on what their minimum amount is. But you remember we save 15%. Those department store credit cards are usually 20 to 25% interest. So you're not saving a penny unless you completely pay that off. So just be careful when you apply for credit cards. Credit cards are not bad. I want you to know how to use them wisely and use them smart. Not just to save 20% because you think you're doing, it's just those cards can get you into trouble. Okay, so in 12 months, if you have opened up a credit card, or if any of you have applied for any loan in the last year, those points will come back. So basically, if you apply for loans, just spread out. Don't do them all at once. Okay, that way you're not taking a huge hit at one time for a whole year before those points come back. Okay, so those are called inquiries. that hard pull on your credit is an inquiry and it costs you 5 points. Those 3 credit cards, those 2 credit cards, whatever it is, that was 10 points. Now, what if Old Navy and Dillard's both said, Lori, I'm so sorry, I can't offer you a credit card today. How do you want to pay for your stuff? Well, then I hand them cash or give them my debit card, and that means I didn't qualify for a credit card. It still costs me 10 points, 5 each. So even though my credit is pulled and they don't offer me a credit card, I still lost those 5 points. I've seen credit reports where I had a little shopper that went to 7 stores, 7 different places on a Saturday, and applied everywhere they went. They applied for a credit card. They were turned down 7 times, lost 35 points for a whole year. So be careful when you apply for credit cards. Just know what you're doing. Now, you are allowed once a year as a consumer to request your own credit report. Annualcreditreport.com is a good, safe place to go. You can go online. You do have to give them your social. It's completely safe. I would never tell you to go there if it's not. It's all encrypted, but they can give you your report. And the reason I send people there, it's not to get your score necessarily, because you guys are just starting out. Unless there's some, serious issues with your credit report, but primarily looking at that credit report, you just want to make sure that everything on there is you, that no one else has gotten a hold of your social or any other personal identifying information on you, and they've opened up accounts in your name. I do these classes at Vista and Brightwood College as well, and I had a 20-year-old student came after the class, and she goes, I've got some really bad stuff on my credit, and it's not me. And I said, well, if it's not you, you can dispute those things, because there are times things appear on your credit report and they're not you, and you can legally prove that it's not you and they can remove it. Well, she said, somebody took a mortgage out in my name 7 years ago, and, it's just messing up my credit. And I said, baby, how old are you? And she goes, I'm 20. So that means when she was 13 years old, someone had her social and bought a house in her name, in her name and her social. And they didn't make the payments on it. So now she has a foreclosure on her, and that was right here in Beaumont. She has a foreclosure on her credit report. So she's fighting, and it can be removed. It's not like the end of the world, you're ruined for the rest of your life. But she just, she had no idea. So I don't know who got a hold of her social. You need to really protect your Social Security card. Is there anybody in here that carries their Social Security card? If you're willing, raise your hand. You have it on you right now in your purse. Please, please, please take it out when you get home. Yes?
Whenever I vacation down in Brownsville, they require us to compare social. Like in South Texas.
In South Texas. Oh, just for identification purposes?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Who is they?
They as Border Patrol.
Oh, okay. So you don't have a passport?
So, yeah, I do. It's just like they want to see social, which is kind of sketchy.
Ooh,
passport
see?
is actually like the best identification number.
Social?
Passport.
Passport, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. Well, now, I know. Now, I don't know, is that the Texas side or is that the Mexico side? I don't know who's looking at that, and I've not ever heard that, because that's usually not one of the places that you have to show your social. There are times you have to show your social or give your social security number. But usually for identification purposes, no. Unless you are for colleges or applying for a loan at a financial institution, yes, you do need your Social Security number. But if you're just at a store or somewhere and they want to get your social for identification purposes, you do not have to give it. And don't give it. So those of you, if you have your Social Security card with you right now in your wallet, please, please, please put it away somewhere safe. Because unless you're going to your first day at a new job, or you're going to open up a new checking account or a savings account somewhere, there's only about 5 or 6 times that you really need your Social Security card, but day in and day out you don't. And that just is making you a little bit more vulnerable if your wallet is stolen, if someone could get your number and access it, like my friend at Vista College that had a mortgage out in her name when she was 13 and didn't know it until she was about 19. So we just want to be careful. So that's why I send you to annualcreditreport.com, just to make sure if it says 0, nothing is going on, then you're good. That's what you want. Yes, ma'am. Is Credit Karma good? Credit Karma it's kind of like a range of a credit score. Your Credit Karma score is not your true credit score. So if Credit Karma tells you that you are a 750, you're not really a 750. It's a little bit lower. Your actual score is lower than what Credit Karma tells you. But Credit Karma, it's not a bad place, and as long as you're doing okay with Credit Karma, just know that that's not an actual hard pull on your credit. It's not. People come into us all the time and they'll say, I have an 810, I'm ready to apply for this car, apply for this mortgage, whatever, and when we pull it, it's never 810. It's not bad, it's just not as high as Credit Karma tells you. Okay, so it's not bad, it's not a true credit score. Yes, ma'am.
So what would be the best place to go to check your credit score?
You need to go to one of the major credit bureaus, which is the Experian, TransUnion, or Equifax. Those credit bureaus are the ones that have actual credit scores. Those are the ones that lenders use. We never use Credit Karma scores. We use Equifax, TransUnion, or Experian. Okay? All right, so annualcreditreport.com is a good, safe place for you to go just to make sure your history's good. There's nothing on there that shouldn't be there, so that doesn't affect your credit history at some point. So that's a good place. Once a year, you can go there for free. I recommend people go, instead of pulling all 3 bureaus at once, I mean, this is going to be a little scheduling on your part. This month, pull Equifax. In 4 months, put it in your phone to pull Experian, and then in 4 months, pull TransUnion. So you're actually looking at your credit report 3 times a year instead of just once, just making sure that there's no fraudulent activities on there. Now, you are allowed to shop for autos and mortgages, and you don't get it. Remember, I said every time you have a hard pull, it's 5 points. That is true, except for when you're shopping for a home or when you're shopping for an auto. You're allowed to go to a dealership, and they're going to pull your credit from about 3 or 4 or 5 different lenders. That just counts as one. As long as it's within a 30 to 45-day period, you're not going to, if you go look at a car, you go to the Ford place this weekend and you look for cars, and then next week you decide, okay, I think I want a Chevrolet. So you go to the Chevy dealer and you start looking at cars there, and they're going to kind of pull your credit, both of those dealers. But that's not 5, 10, 15, 20 points. That's just a 5-time pull, because it's an auto or it's a mortgage, and you're allowed to shop for those. So you don't have to worry about if you look around to different dealers as far as, they're going to, pull it 10 times, that's going to cost me 50 points or 25 points. That's not the case at all. So, okay, so we've talked about payment history a little bit. Let's talk about capacity again, because this is the part where a lot of people get into trouble with their credit score because we like our credit cards. Do y'all know what the average credit card debt in U.S. households is? The amount of what the average U.S. household has on credit card balances. Does anyone like to throw out a number?
Isn't it like 1,800?
Over $16,000 is the average balance of credit cards in U.S. households. So that means someone has that much on their credit card balances and they're just paying every month. Over $16,000, that is a lot. That's a whole lot. So let's talk about capacity. This is the second largest portion of our score. 30% of your score is based on how much balances do you have on your credit cards. Remember, so this is all credit cards. You may have 1, you may have 10. Doesn't matter how many credit cards you have to add them all up together. So let's take all of our credit cards. We've got all of our balances. And just for my easy numbers, let's just say I have 2 credit cards. They each have a $500 limit. So that means I've got a $1,000 limit, okay? Each credit card allows me to spend up to charge up to $500 on that credit card. So if I've got a $1,000 limit, and my balances add up to $500 between those 2. Remember what we said earlier? I've used 50% of my capacity, okay? A $1,000 limit, a $500 balance, I've used 50% of my capacity. So according to my slide here, I'm going to lose a half a point for every percentage of my capacity that I use. So I'm at 50% capacity. How many points have I lost on my credit score? 25 points, okay? What if I have a $1,000 limit and my balances are $1,000? I'm at 100% capacity. I could lose up to 50 points on my credit score.
Every month?
Not every month. It's just whatever your capacity is. So if I was to pull your credit and this is you, let's just say you have $1,000 in credit card limits and your balances are $995, that's 100% used. So right then your score is 50 points lower than it could be. Now if you pay those balances down, you're going to gain those points back. But you don't lose that every month. Those points are just gone because of what your capacity is. Does that make sense? So next month, I decide, okay, this is too much. I'm just going to not spend in other areas, and I'm going to pay those credit card balances down. And let's say I lower my balance. I'm at 500. I was at 1,000. Now I'm down to 500. I'm going to gain about 25 of those points back until I get it down to 0. And then eventually I will gain all those points back once I keep that balance at whatever it is. So your capacity can be figured at any time. So if any of you have credit cards and you carry a balance, you can figure out your capacity to see where you are if your credit score is, losing points, or if you're not gonna, if you have a credit card and it has a 0 balance, you're not necessarily gaining points, you're just not losing any points for having that capacity taken up, okay? But then again, if you have a credit card, because see, some people say, oh, that credit card scares me, I don't want a credit card, I just don't want, or I've got one, I'm never gonna use it. That doesn't really help you either, because you have to have activity. Those credit bureaus need to know what you're doing. If you have a credit card that you never use, ever, it's sitting in your wallet, it's sitting in your drawer at home, and there's no charges, there's no payments, so every month, what does that credit card company tell those credit bureaus? I mean, what's the balance? 0. What was the payment? 0. What happened? Nothing. So it really doesn't help you. It doesn't help you if you never ever use it. The smart way to use it is to put a little bit of gas, maybe a couple of tanks of gas, or $50 to $75 a month. Wait for that bill to come in, and then make that payment. And so that's showing that credit card company that you have a balance and you paid it in full, you paid it on time, and that's going to do this with your score. Okay, so you need to use those credit cards wisely, not just max them out, and because you can really lose points for that. So here's an example of capacity. We've got 2 different members here that have credit cards. One has 1 credit card with a $500 limit, and the other one has 3 credit cards with an $8,000 limit. So we're going to add up all of our limits and all of our balances. So when member A over here has a credit card, $500 balance, limit, and he has nothing on it, he's like, ooh, there's a big sale at Best Buy, I need a new television. I want to go get a new television. Watch some football this fall. He pulls out that credit card, which is what most people say, I have $500, I have a credit card, I have $500. So they swipe that credit card and they max out that card. Now when that bill comes in, you can pay this in full and you're good. That's fine to do. That's not going to affect your score negatively. But if you get that bill and I don't really have $500 and I start making minimum payments and I just pay it down as I go, that's when I'm going to lose up to 50 points because I maxed out that credit card. Okay? So paying that bill in full is the right way to do it. Or pay half of it and the next month pay the other half. Just don't keep charging if you've got a balance. But see, when this guy over here buys the exact same television for $500 because the limit is higher, he's only using 6.25% of the capacity because the limit is higher. An $8,000 limit, a $500 balance, that's just 6% of that limit. So that capacity that means that's just a low balance. So he's just going to lose about 3 points, whereas a $500 limit, a $500 balance, you max it out, that's 100%, you lose 50 points. Does that make sense on capacity? Okay. I know sometimes that's why I have it a couple times in here. It was a little confusing for me as well on how that capacity works. So, okay, so for some of you that are thinking, okay, well, how do I do this? I don't even know how to start building my credit. What's the right way? What's the smart way to do it? This is what we recommend to a lot of people. My daughter is a senior here at Lamar, and she did this a year ago. She came into the credit union and she got a secured credit card because remember, part of our mix, part of what FICO likes is you to kind of mix it up a little bit, and you really do need to have a credit card or two, just one when you're first starting out until you know how to use it. Now, please, I'm not telling you all, don't think, oh yeah, that lady from Mobile came in, she told us all to go get credit cards, just charge up credit cards. No, that's not what I'm saying. When you know what you're doing, and whether it is talking to, a parent, whether it's talking to, a mentor or someone that you trust on how to use this, I just want you to know how to use these credit cards. So, what we recommend for young adults that are starting out, if you're 18 or older, you might be in college, you might be, if you've got friends that are, working or whatever it is and they're trying to establish their credit, a secure credit card is a really smart way to start. And what that means is you would come into, and most financial institutions offer these. I just work for Mobile Oil Credit Union, and we do this, but other financial institutions, whether you're with another bank or with another credit union, that's fine. But you go into that financial institution and you have a savings account with them, and they would put, depending upon what you want your limit to be, our minimum is $500. So what my daughter did last fall is she came into the credit union, she has a savings account with us, and so we just kind of marked $500 and it's unusable to her. Okay, so we just kind of hold that $500 in her savings account. Now we issued her a Visa. She has her very own Visa credit card. Okay, it looks like a credit card, it works like a credit card because it is a credit card. She now has a $500 limit on a Visa credit card. So every month she charges about 2 tanks of gas a month. She waits for the bill to come in and then she pays it in full. She doesn't charge any more after that. So she's just letting that, so every month Mobile Oil Credit Union reports to all 3 of those bureaus that she has a balance of $125. She paid $125, she paid on time. Okay, so every month she's been doing that for a whole year. And now, after a year, because of good payment history, her score is higher. She's got well over a 750. She has a really good credit score. And she was able to come into the credit union and we unsecured that credit card. So now that means that $500 is in her account and is accessible to her. So we secure those for people that don't have credit history because we don't know for sure if you're really going to pay that back or not. So that money just holds it, secures it, if you will, just in case you default on that loan. It doesn't pay it. You still have to pay the bill every month. But that's just a good way for you to start building that credit. Okay? I'm seeing some little question marks. Is that confusing? Are y'all following me on that, how those work? Please talk to your parents and ask them about that. But that is a really good way for people to start establishing credit, or for those that have had bad credit history in the past and they need to reestablish. A secured credit card can help you in that way. It'll give you about 50 points in a year. Because you had a hard pull, so you lost the 5 points. You opened up that new trade line, so you lost 10, but just for a year. You do get those points back, and we really suggest that you, of course, pay it on time so you don't lose, because you'll lose points for not paying it on time. And you don't want to have any interest added onto that because that'll cost you additional money as well. Those of you that have a debit card attached to your checking account or to your savings account, those do not report to the credit bureaus. Even if you swipe that card and they ask you PIN or they ask, run this as credit, that doesn't mean that that's a credit card. That doesn't mean that that's doing anything to your credit history. It just means you're either signing for your transaction or you're pinning your transaction. That's all that means. So debit cards are not credit cards. They don't affect your score. They don't do anything, okay? That's just basically like writing a check, okay? Let's see what else I have here. Okay, here's just some other ways for you to just start building your credit when you're ready to do that, especially as you guys are getting ready to graduate. Some of you are probably going to be gone this time next year. You'll be out in the working world. So you need to just make sure you're very, very faithful and very careful to make your payments in full every single month, because if you can get in this habit when you're young to make your payments on time, if that's just it's a habit, it becomes automatic and you won't have trouble when you're 20, 30, 40 years old. Because I see people, they're like, man, I wish I would have started saving when I was younger. I wish I would have, known how the credit history works, to protect their score. So make sure you pay your bills in full. And if you have to set a reminder on your phone, put it in your calendar. Most of us get our mail through email anyway. I don't get anything mailed to my house, nothing that has an account number, any of my bank statements, any of my, like my, investment stuff. If I have a 401k at work, which I do, none of that comes in paper form because I don't want my name and number out there if someone was to get into my mailbox, or then what do I do with all this paper that I have? So all of my stuff is sent to me electronically. So you just need to make sure it's your responsibility to pay it. Know when your due dates are. Know when those due dates are. For those of you that have a credit card, your due date, let's just say your payment is due on October 20th. The 20th of every single month is when your payment is due on your Visa, okay? Credit card companies not only have a due date, they have a due time. So you have to get your payment in before a certain time for it to be posted on that day, all right? So, and when you get that credit card or you apply for those loans, it's in that teeny tiny little fine print at the bottom. You need to, but make sure you know this, because a lot of credit card companies, they might give you a rate of, let's say, 4 or 5% when you first start out, and as long as you pay on time every single time, you're not late, you can keep that low interest rate. Well, you might read your credit card bill a year later and you're like, wait a minute, I'm paying 14%. I thought I only had 5. What's going on? Well, maybe you missed the cutoff time. Okay, so here's kind of a scenario on that. My bill's due on the 20th. Okay, I get home on the 20th, get home about 6 o'clock, I sit down, talk to my husband a little bit. Oh, we cook dinner, watch a little television. I'm like, oh, it's the 20th, I need to go pay my bill. Oh, it's only 8 o'clock, I've got time. So then I do whatever, read or go walk the dog, whatever, and I'm coming in and it's about, I'm ready for bed, 10:30. Ooh, I need to go pay my bill. So I really quickly, I go online, I make my payment. 10:45, yes, I got it in. Today's the 20th. I got it in before midnight. Well, I'm good. Well, I didn't know my cutoff time was 5 p.m. I'm not even home at 5 p.m. Okay? Now, I'm not going to be late. They're not going to report me 30 days late because I'll lose points for that if I'm 30 days late. 60 points, actually, is how many you lose if you let something go without paying it at all. But I may have lost that interest rate privilege. Maybe my 5% now is up to 10%. Okay? Maybe my 5% is now up to 15%. So know when your time is in addition to your due date. So if you're due on the 20th, pay the 19th, pay the 18th. Pay a couple days early. Just get into the habit when those loans become due. Make sure you're aware of that cutoff time, because that can hurt your interest rate. It's not going to give you a delinquent. It's not going to give you a late pay as long as you get it in by midnight. But if you make your payment on the 21st, technically they could call you late. And you may not get reported 30 days, but you're going to have a fee next month as well. So not only are you paying your credit card balance, there's going to be an additional probably $30 to $35 little late fee because you didn't pay it on time. So it can cost you a lot of money. Make sure you pay on time every time. So to continue to build your credit score, you want to keep the debts low, keep the balances low on those credit cards, keep them open and active for as long as you can. Just keep a good, you don't have to charge on it every single month, but just keep some activity on it every 2, 3, 4 months or whatever, just so there's some activity. Diversify it up a little bit. Do not open more than 3 loans per year. And then you want to just check your credit history, check your credit report once a year, or each bureau every 4 months. So here's an example, and I think we're just about done. Here's an example of a credit score and how it can save you money. All right, this is a car loan. This is identical car loans. We've got someone that came in with a 600 credit score and someone that came in with a 700 credit score. So you can see what just 100 points can do to save you money. They both bought cars at $25,000 car loan for 72 months. So the 600 credit score, they're going to get 7.25% interest rate, and they're going to have a payment of about $430. Okay? So that's how much it's going to cost you to buy your payment on a $25,000 loan, $430 a month if you have a 600 credit score. But look what happens if you can raise your score and a 700 comes in to buy that exact same car. Their rate's only 3% because their score's higher. And their payment's only $380 a month. So that's about $50 a month less than you have with 700 as opposed to a 600. This is how credit scores can save you money. okay? Now, I really like the little green box at the bottom because I can say if you just have 100 points difference in your score, a 700 as opposed to a 600, it'll cost you or save you over $3,500 over those 5 years of that loan, 6 years of that loan. So this really can save you money in the long run because I promise you, you're going to have more than one car in your life. You won't be driving the same car for 30, 40 years. You'll be getting a new car every 3, 4, 5 years probably. And so you want to make sure, unless you're paying cash, and I hope you do, that's great. If you can pay cash for a car, that's wonderful. You don't have a car payment every month. But for those of us that do borrow for cars, it's really good to have a high score so you can get that low rate. The lowest rate we offer at our credit union is 1.75. That's really, really low interest rate. So if you have a 760 or above, and you've got some other things, you've got to, you have to have some history there as well, a job to support the payment, little things like that. You can only pay 1.75, so that loan would really go down, the amount every month that you're going to pay. So this is just a little example on how a credit score really can save you money when you borrow. And this is on an auto loan here. So let me see what else I have. So just a couple more tips for you. Kind of some money management as you're getting ready to get out of college, and just think about your future and what you're going to do. Think about a budget. Think about a spending plan, because I know my daughter, she's got 2 or 3 part-time jobs, and, doesn't make just tons of money, but she's got some money. And when she graduates next December, yay, she's going to be out in the working world, and all of a sudden, she's going to make more money than she's ever made in her entire life. And what's going to happen? She's going to be really tempted. Ooh, I have all this extra money. Let's go shopping. I'm going to buy this. I'm going to buy that. I'm ready to buy a car. I can afford it. You get money all of a sudden, and you don't know what to do with it. So be wise about when that money starts coming in. Just because you're making a bunch of money doesn't mean you need to spend it all. So please come up with a budget. I'm not saying don't ever go out to eat, don't go buy new clothes, or don't, I'm not saying that, but at least just within reason, just think about it. Just read some information on budgeting and setting some boundaries. Make sure you're saving. I don't care if it's just $50 a month, if it's just $20 a month, whatever it is, make that a habit. Every single paycheck, take some money out, stick it to the side, just don't even look at it. Have it automatically taken out of your paycheck, put into a savings account, out of sight, out of mind, and if that becomes a habit, when you're first starting out, you're always saving. By the time you are old like me, you'll actually have some money in the bank. And it's free. It really is nice to have that little nest egg there. So just make it a habit, and that's what most people don't. I didn't do it, and most people don't. And so then you're in your 50s and 60s, and you're like, boy, I'm retiring in about 10 years. I don't have enough money to retire. I'm not going to be able to retire like I would like to retire. You probably know people like that. So just start now. Start now. So you want to make sure you've got a plan. Spend wisely. Basically, spend less than you make. Do not ignore your debt. We've kind of talked about how to use those credit cards wisely because they are tools. They can help you, but they can really hurt you as well. They can really hurt you. And most of the people that get hurt is when they're in college and they open up credit cards because they're just offering them at the college, and they get a credit card and they charge it up and they're like, ugh, and they get into trouble. So just be really careful about that. Make sure that you keep your contact information up to date. For those of you that have student loans and that have multiple student loans, when you graduate, you need to make sure they know where you are. If they're mailing you something, if they're emailing your statement to you, and you move, and you forget to do a forwarding address, or you've changed your email and you haven't notified them, just because you don't get a paper slip in the mail saying you owe this doesn't mean you don't have to pay it. Okay? So make sure people know where you are at all times. So you can call up that credit card and say, well, you know what, you didn't send me a bill. They're not going to say, that's okay, don't pay me this month, that's no big deal, you can catch me next time. No. You're still going to have to pay them plus the penalty. So make sure you have everything up to date and everybody knows where you are. And it is never too early to start saving for retirement. I know I have been driving that into our daughter, our youngest, her head when she graduates, because you're going to start making money. Please put it away. Please put it away. So just start that habit, and it just will become a habit, and then you know, it'll be there for you when you need it.